Good evening. We're back with another episode of the Lord of the Rings LCG Progression Series. And tonight it's a card review of the Crossing of Poros adventure pack, which is the last adventure pack of the cycle, the Haradrim cycle. Let's take a look. The hero for this adventure pack is Quick Beam. Hero version of Quick Beam. He's a tactics hero, 12 threat, 2415. Cannot have restricted attachments. Deal 2 damage to Quick Beam to ready him. Limit once per phase. He's quite good. 4 attack is very good. And he can also quest for 2. He does, to take full advantage of his ability, need healing. Yorth should suffice. I don't know that you'd want to play Quick Beam and Treebeard in the same deck. They'd be quite high threat. And that's unfortunate because thematically it would make sense to play Quick Beam and Treebeard in the same deck, meaning they're hero versions. You could of course play the ally versions. I suppose Quick Beam is meant to be played with like the ally version of Treebeard so that you have a strong ant hero still, but you can play the ally version of Treebeard, which is very, very good in an ent deck because it generates additional resources. But without Treebeard's without some healing, you won't be able to use Quick Beam's ability more than twice. But the times that you use it, you'll be able to quest for 2 and attack for 4 in the same turn. You likely won't use him for defense at all, which is also the case for his ally version. However, I do see a role for Quick Beam. Now, he's not a champion you can build your deck around very easily. Gonna make a new hero rankings video. But essentially, the problem at this stage of the game, and the problem that's really handicapping or kneecapping deck building for true solo play, is that for the most difficult quests in the game, you need card draw. You need a hero that can do card draw without too many caveats, and there just aren't very many. The really good ones are like Gandalf, Elrond with Vilya, Aristor. Then there's a couple that you can kind of make work with some setup, but they require additional cards, like Círdan or Arwen with Elven Light, or something like that. Those are the only heroes you can really build a top tier deck around. Top tier meaning a deck that can take on Karn Doom or Mount Doom. So Quick Beam isn't one of them. He's relegated to a supporting role, and that's not a slight really on Quick Beam in terms of what he can do in multiplayer or what he provides. It's more about the limitations of deck building for true solo play right now. The limitation being the extreme difficulty of some of the quests and the need for consistency, which necessitates card draw to start the game. However, for the role that he is designed for, which is combat, he's very good. I played a deck just a couple of quests ago where I ran not Asaya. I would have rather run Quick Beam if he'd been available. The downside is that he's quite high threat, so it's difficult to run him alongside other high attack champions. But not impossible. He's good. I look forward to playing him in a future deck when high combat power is needed. Or, you know, the problem with him in terms of playing him in a top tier deck is that if you're running one of the card draw heroes that I mentioned that are really strong, like Elrond or Gandalf, those are high threat heroes. And if you need access to a hero from the tactics sphere, you're typically running Éowyn. And Éowyn is a 6 threat hero. That's what she starts at. Now, is Quick Beam better than Éowyn? No. There's no champion better than Éowyn in that role, taking out big targets. So, and you're not going to run like Gandalf and Quick Beam and Éowyn, or Gandalf or Elrond and Quick Beam and Éowyn, because you need access to another sphere. I think typically leadership, or it could be spirit. So he's very good. Unfortunately, he's outclassed if you're only going to run one Tactics hero. He could see play in Monosphere Tactics decks, though, and be a very good hero there. So, how fast Gamgee? He's 3 cost, 2102. Reduce the cost to play How Fast Gamgee by 1 for each side quest in the victory display. After How Fast Gamgee enters play, add 1 resource to a hero's resource pool. Well, that's very good. He's pretty good even without reducing his cost. It's basically 2 cost for 2 willpower, and he can transfer a resource from leadership to something else. This is very strong. I would consider playing this for sure in any deck that runs side quests and as leadership. I think that's a very strong card. With 1 side quest in the victory display, you're at 2 cost for 2 willpower, 1 attack, and you generate a resource. That's very good. Very good card. I like that card a lot. Even in a non-Hobbit deck, I think he's very good. Bulwark of the West. 0 cost, discard an ally you control to choose and discard a condition attachment. Well, Power of Orthanc is better at this, because I would value an ally far less than I'd value 2 threat, usually. So, I mean, I think this card is, you pay a very high cost to play it, and I think the reason is because it's off sphere. You usually see condition removal from, well, I don't think we've seen it from leadership yet, and so this is the reason why it's so high cost. Discarding an ally is a very high price to pay for discarding a condition. I think you'd rather use almost any other form of condition removal, and I don't think there'd be so many conditions that you need to run this in addition to another form of condition removal. Miner of the Iron Hills, Elrond ally version, or Power of Orthanc. All better options than this. So I'd rather run a card that would give me access to another sphere and run a card from another sphere rather than play this card. I don't think it's good. Too expensive. Bjorning Guardian. 3 cost, 031, 3 health. After Bjorning Guardian participates in an attack that destroys an enemy, discard Bjorning Guardian to place X progress on a location where X is the destroyed enemy's printed threat. Well, 3 attack for 3 cost is good, but that's getting more and more common now, and I think there are other allies that do this that also have a beneficial ability, like Knight of Minas Tirith. I think there might be a Sylvan Marksman as well, although I'm not certain that's 3 for 3 off the top of my head, but it is. Marksman of Lorien is 30302. So comparing the two, if you were going to play a 3 for 3, 3 attack for 3 cost card, Marksman of Lorien gives you 3 attack, 1 less shield, and 1 less health. However, when it enters play, you can choose an enemy, and that enemy gets -2 shields until the end of the round, and that's a far better ability, I think, than Bjorning Guardians. Bjorning Guardians could be situationally useful, but discarding him in order to get at that ability is a very high cost and reduces the value of the card by quite a bit should you choose to play it that way. So I'd rather play Marksman of Lorien than this card if I needed 3 for 3, and I don't think I would run both, at least not very often. You'd really need a battle quest with high requirements in order to do that. So, just like the last card, Bulwark of the West, it's greatly overshadowed by other cards. Unfortunately, same as Quick Beam. He's great, but he is overshadowed by Aowen, who is phenomenal. Should you only need one tactics hero, and there aren't a lot of decks in True Solo that run 2 tactics heroes, but there are some, and he'll likely see play in such decks. How Fast Gamgee is good though, just straight up good. If you're running a side quest, then he's okay if you're not. Followed. 1 cost, play into your play area unattached. It's a trap. If unattached, attach to the next eligible enemy that engages you. While attached enemy... Oh, you play it into your play area, not into the staging area. Okay. While attached enemy is engaged with you, reduce the total threat in the staging area by X, where X is attached enemy's printed threat. Well, that's okay, but I don't think it's good outside of a Damrod deck. I think with Damrod it's fine. It's a placeholder that does something. Damrod fell off for me pretty quickly. He's a card draw hero, it's true. I talked about how card draw heroes are necessary, but he requires a lot of placeholder cards to take advantage of. And as we got further into the life cycle of the game, with better and better cards coming out, you want to use those slots in your deck for really strong cards, not for placeholders. And so Damrod kind of fell out of favor as a card draw hero. Relegated to fun status now, but in the Damrod deck, I think this is a fine card. I don't think it does enough. -2 threat against in the staging area, or maybe -3, isn't really strong enough to justify 1 cost in the card. I wouldn't play that card if that's what it did. Temporarily reduce threat by 2 or 3. But when it draws a card for you with Damrod, that's pretty good. And doesn't cost anything. That's pretty good. So, see play in Damrod deck, but not otherwise. This has been a theme for a couple of adventure packs now. Fun cards. Fun deck cards. Flight to the Sea. Play only if you control a Noldor or Sylvan hero. Planning action. Shuffle a set-aside Wind from the Sea into the encounter deck. Then remove Flight to the Sea from the game. So you have to pay 2 resources, and then you have to hope that Wind from the Sea comes up. And if it does, when revealed, ready each hero committed to the quest and remove Wind from the Sea from the game. You also get the advantage of having spoiled an encounter draw, because this doesn't say Surge on it. That's really good if it comes up. And it's not always going to, and you have no control whatsoever whether it does. This likely won't see play, because you need cards in the top tier decks to be really reliable. That's generally what we're trying to do with deck building, is make it as reliable as possible, and this is very unreliable. Very good when it works, but very unreliable, because you have no possible way to guarantee that it'll happen or make it happen faster. So that's Flight to the Sea and Wind from the Sea. Cool concept. Very good when it works, but no control over when it works. And actually kind of expensive too, at 2 resources and a card. Eminem Ranger, 2 cost 0/1/1. After Eminem Ranger commits to the quest, choose an enemy with a trap attachment. Until the end of the phase, Eminem Ranger gets +X willpower, where X is the chosen enemy's printed willpower. Well, that's a strange way to give your ally just 2 willpower, probably, maybe 3, but often only 2. And you really don't have any way to control which enemies get trapped, so it's going to be kind of random, but most often it's going to be 2, possibly 1, possibly 3. It's great when it's 3. It's fine when it's 2, and it's bad when it's 1, but I'd rather have a 2-for-2 ally, and there actually are some in lore now. At least Mablung off the top of my head, and I think there's at least one other. There's 3-for-3 with Welling All Preserver, although it enters play exhausted. But this is a long way to get an effect that's mediocre when you get it. It's really good if you get 3 willpower, but you can't control that, so another high variance card. I don't think I would run it. I'd rather just run a straight up 2-for-2 character. It is Gondor, so I might run it in a Gondor deck if I had access to lore. if I had access, if I was playing like Gondor Damrod or something. That's about the only time I'd run this. I don't think I'd even run it in a Damrod deck. It's too high variance. It could have 0 threat sometimes if you don't have a trap yet, or your traps have all been discarded or something. Too high variance for too little effect. We'll only tolerate high variance if the effect like wins you the game, and you can at least expect that it'll come up every game. Wind from the Sea is really good, but you might not even see it every game. Even if you played 3 copies, you might not. First of all, you have to draw the one from your deck, and then you have to draw the one from the encounter deck. The Dam Bursts, 2 cost. Play only if you control a unique character with the Ent trait and another unique character with the Hobbit trait. Ready each damaged Ent character you control. Well, those are requirements that aren't going to be met by every deck that's playing Ents. Doesn't make a lot of sense to include a Hobbit hero in an Ent deck, except for thematic reasons. So I suppose this is a thematic card. And in a thematic deck, it's pretty good. It's definitely high enough quality to be in a thematic deck. I don't think I'd run this. I don't think I'd run this combo specifically for this card. It's probably going to ready only 2 or 3 characters, and only after you've gotten them set up. It's not going to do anything early sometimes. But it could be fun to play. Slow, but fun. As are Ents, generally speaking, with some exceptions for specific cards. Yeah, I'm seeing a theme for this adventure pack, which is, with the exception of Howlfast Gamgee, that's very good. These are fun cards. They're overshadowed by better cards, or they have effects that are inconsistent. Or like most of the other combo cards, it's a fun card there. Getting to the point where when I see one of these combo cards, I automatically think fun card, because so far that's what all of them have been. Magic Ring, 2 cost. Attached to a hero, limit 1 per hero and 1 per deck. Exhaust Magic Ring and raise your threat by 1 to either heal 1 damage from attached hero, add 1 resource to attached hero's pool, or ready attached hero. For the cost of 1 threat and exhausting their ring, so you can do that 1 time. Well, let's evaluate each of these effects. First of all, readying an attached hero. Unexpected Courage is just straight up better than this, because you don't. It costs 2, and you don't have to pay 1 threat to ready your hero. Heal 1 damage for 1 threat and a 2-cost card. Only an emergency. I'd rather play Yorth than heal 3 for 1 resource. Add 1 resource to attached hero's resource pool. That's probably the best effect. If you're running threat reduction, this could be good. If you could do it like 3 or 4 or 5 turns, you probably would need to do it at least 4 turns for it to be good. So it's 4 threat. If you're running a deck where you can spare the 4 threat, then this is pretty good. If not, then I don't think it's good at all. Or it's okay, but it's overshadowed in the case of readying attached hero. Now, is the versatility worth anything? The fact that you can choose which thing you want. It's not worth nothing. But I wouldn't put a high value on it. So I'd run it if I could afford to use it 4 times. But it's 1 per deck, so you can't rely on it. Unless you're running a Master of the Forge to pull it out of the deck faster. I don't think this is a very good card. I think it's, well, first of all, it's a 1-of, so that makes it automatically inconsistent. And it doesn't have a strong enough effect to justify its unreliability or in a deck. That being unreliability, meaning you can only play 1 of it. It's on theme for the adventure pack. Nonetheless, you may see this in some good decks, just because of the resource generation, I think, primarily. That's hard to come by. In a neutral card, it can go on any sphere. It can be very hard to come by in Tactics. You will perhaps not have any better option for resource generation than in Tactics than Magic Ring, even though it's a one of. Well, I would say if you are a player that is looking for cards to beat the hardest quests in the game, you can safely look elsewhere, with the exception of how fast KMG is certainly good but not essential by any stretch. If you're a fun thematic player, there's things here to like, and Quick Beam could even be quite good in a Monosphere Tactics deck. But not going to see play in the best decks because he's overshadowed by Eowyn. So, not much here. As in the last adventure pack, not much here to justify a purchase for players who are looking for the top tier cards. So, thanks for watching.